America runs a vast financial empire begun by his father. He's the owner and editor of the prominent magazine that bears his name. Malcom has an international lifestyle with estates, ranches, and islands all over the world. But is Malcom Forbes just another run-of-the-mill multimillionaire? Then what about this 69-year-old adventurer who sails around the world in hot air balloons, takes almost childlike delight in racing motorcycles, has recently completed a new book called They Went That-A-Way, and has become a pop celebrity over his relationship with Elizabeth Taylor? Despite all the glamour, he finds great satisfaction here in New York at the Forbes Gallery, which houses a truly remarkable collection of miniature boats and a child's fantasy of toy soldiers. But these are his pride and joy, the world's largest private collection of magnificently crafted Fabergé eggs. You got into a bidding war with Gorbachev on one of those eggs, didn't you?
We had 10 at that point, and the Kremlin had 10, and one came up. It was sort of the pièce de résistance in a divorce fight by the people who then owned it. The Kremlin itself was interested in having the 11th rather than our having it. And when the gavel went down, the auctioneer said, the score now is the Kremlin 10, Forbes 11. Well, since then, we've added another one. So now we're 2 up in that egg race.
Everybody that has money, or even that doesn't have money, will spend money on some things, but they're cheap about others.
Well,
what are you cheap about?
Well, for instance, it kills me. I don't throw a paper clip away. The junk mail for me is a source of sticking more paper clips. And I suppose all the money I've saved, I use a pencil to the stub. If it's a tube of toothpaste, I get the edge of the toothbrush and I squeeze the last drop out. And I suppose putting all these enormous, thrifty savings together, it probably wouldn't pay for one motorcycle of the 70 I have. But somehow I feel off the hook if I'm very penurious about something.
Do you see yourself as an ambassador for capitalism?
We've taken the word capitalism, which had been really monopolized by socialists and communists as a word of degradation. It sort of went with pig, capitalist pig, and pictures of bloated cartoons of millionaires sitting on bags of money that were sitting on the backs of sweating labor and big cigars in their mouth. This satirization, this put-down of capitalism had really dominated and brought the word into a bad meaning. We've rehabilitated by describing Forbes for the past 25, 30 years as a capitalist tool. And that simply means we, by issuing the report card we do every issue on the performance of America's business managers, we are a tool in behalf of capitalism, because the worst enemy of capitalism aren't socialists, aren't communists. They are inept, bad performers at the top of management.
For anyone else, running Forbes magazine would be a full-time endeavor, but Malcom Forbes takes his philosophy outside America's boardrooms into foreign lands through adventures he calls friendship tours.
We try to pick a country, we do pick countries, where, for one reason or another, there may be a problem in their relationships with the United States, but where they are very consequential to the United States. We try to show by a balloon that salutes that country as something of which they are proud, or to which it has singular significance. And the 8 Harleys. On bikes, people feel free to talk to you. It's an informal expression of friendship. We call them friendship tours, and they are. It's very important to show occasionally on a person-to-person basis, which a balloon and the bikes do, that there is a real feeling of respect and friendship for these countries.
Let me talk a little bit with you about what you're doing personally right now. You have the balloon trips and the friendship tours. You're a very busy man, but you've been seen in the tabloids with Elizabeth Taylor. I mean...
It's kind of fun, you know, when people are in the public eye, as she's been all her life, and I've only been to a lesser extent. The things you can read about yourself that are totally unrelated to the facts. I mean, I've read in some magazines where we are married, and they show pictures of us in church. Well, there were pictures taken. We were in church at the chateau we have in France, the Balloon Meet. We attended the church services. But the way that thing is context, it looks like here was the marriage, and here's the priest, and here they are, and so forth. I mean, we are very good friends. We're happy in each other's company, but it doesn't necessarily mean we're going to jeopardize all that by marriage.
Doesn't it disturb you? You're a publisher. To be the brunt of that.
The heck with it. You know, you just read it. I must say that my status at the checkout counter at the supermarket went way the hell up when I was on the cover of a couple of these magazines that everybody reads. Why, you know, they took my money, but gee, they really sort of smiled at me.
With Elizabeth Taylor, no less.
She wasn't with me at the checkout counter, unfortunately.
I think it's probably pretty normal that your marital status would be speculated about because you are probably the world's most eligible bachelor right now.
Adjusting to the singleness took a lot of doing, but it is sort of fun to read that you are pursued, and occasionally I do get letters from ladies proposing that they'd be, you know, good companions, and so forth. It's very flattering, but I'm not really being chased that much, but it's because I'm not walking very fast. But it's kind of fun to be thought of as being sought after.
Well, it's probably pretty hard to run after your Harley.
Well, in Elizabeth's case, when I gave her first ride on one, she loved it. You know, she kept telling me, go faster, go faster. And I'd say to her, well, hold tighter, hold tighter.
You are also known for giving lavish and extravagant parties. Why is that important to you?
It's no different, actually, than on the scale that almost every person does, if they're going to entertain. The scale isn't the significant thing. It's the effort you make to make those you're having to dinner or to the cookout or for the weekend. You really, most everybody makes a real effort, and it's reflected to show how much they enjoy having their guests. So you cook it up a little special. So we did add touches like the 100 bagpipers coming out of the woods, very stirring. And at first rate, feed out there in the fields of New Jersey. Then when you have these eminences coming, why, you end up with 300 or 400 limousines and about 35 or 40 helicopters. So you have to have a tent to feed the chauffeurs and the pilots, and you have to have a traffic director for the helicopters, and one thing builds on the other. But once you're committed, you try to make it, do it all out.
What is the best thing you ever did? What are you most proud of?
I think our children. None of them go on the premise, gee, Pop has money, you know, how are we going to amuse ourselves? They are heart and soul into what they're doing, and they're one of the major reasons for the success in the business. So I would say the greatest single, if you will, accomplishment. And with children, it's a happy accident, really, if they end up the way one would hope. They are individuals. They're going to do their own thing and should, and it may not always be what we'd have liked for them. We've been, I think, extremely lucky.
On the flip side of that, what was your biggest disappointment?
Well, at the time, I think probably when I got rolled over in my efforts to be governor, that was hurt at the time. Another one, obviously, and that lasts, is that our marriage, after 39 years, didn't last.
It must have hurt a great deal.
Well, it takes a lot of adjusting. You know, you begin after that many years, you sort of take each other for granted and assume things are going to go on that way forever, but nothing is forever.
The way that you enjoy your fortune, the way that you enjoy the fruits of your labor, put it that way, is so much different than some other people who are in an equal situation. What comes to mind is the late John Paul Getty, who used to make his own peanut butter sandwiches and wouldn't spend a nickel on anything. What is it that sets you apart? Where did it come from, this joie de vivre?
I think a lot of people that have a lot of money, sometimes they get gun shy. They want a low profile. They figure, gee, everybody will be after it. They get complexes. Well, I think most Americans who don't have a lot of money, which is most Americans, would be more like I am than like some with a lot of money are. In other words, they would use it to the vast extent it facilitates living. And that doesn't mean wanton, wasteful spending. It simply means if you like to mountain climb, gee, let's go to Switzerland or to India and climb the highest.